Today's case is a disturbing one that will shake you to your core. Behind the exterior of a seemingly quiet, nerdy teen, Nicholas was meticulously crafting a horrifying plan fueled by a sinister obsession hidden in plain sight. From falsifying documents to extensively researching the most disturbing topics, every step Nicholas took was a calculated move towards a truly devious act. This isn't just about what happened on September 13th, 2024. It's about what could have happened and the devastating consequences of his violent ambitions going unchecked. Buckle in, because this is a horrifying one. But before we get into the details of this case, I want to take a moment to talk about something that I've been loving to have as a part of my everyday routine, and that is my tea from Lion's Tea Exchange. Lion's Tea Exchange is a woman-owned artisan tea company based in Texas. They offer a wide range of conventional and functional teas with an emphasis on high-quality luxury blends. They have a pyramid tea bag style made of PLA, which is compostable and said to be free of microplastics. I have recently been moving away from carbonated drinks and coffees and more into teas. I like teas because they have so many different uses, with functional teas being a blend that offers some sort of functional elements that do something positive for your body. For example, the ginseng and their lemon ginseng is a root rich in antioxidants known for its anti-inflammatory properties. In my box, I got 4 different flavors. For a caffeine-free option, I got the raspberry elderflower rosé. I also got a raspberry lemonade oolong and a white peach, both of which are fruity, a bit tangy and sweet, which I love. Then I have their signature flavor, Earl Grey. I like to have this tea in the morning with my breakfast for a little caffeine boost without that overwhelming jitter I sometimes get from coffee. It's the perfect pick-me-up first thing in the morning. Right now, they also have some special limited time holiday flavors, including apple cider rooibos, peppermint white chocolate, and bourbon barrel chai. These flavors can be enjoyed hot or cold. The other things about Lion's Tea Exchange that make them stand out is that buying from them is like a whole luxury experience. Each box is hand-packed and shipped, and everything they create is custom made and blended in the USA, with their tea bags sourced from Japan. The bags also have the ability to be composted. So, give Lion's Tea Exchange a try or give it as a one-of-a-kind gift this holiday season. Head to lionsteaexchange.com to check out the new limited edition flavors and use code RachelShannonTC for 10% off your order, or scan the QR code shown here. Thank you again so much to Lion's Tea Exchange for partnering with me on today's video. Nicholas Prosper was born on December 18th, 2005 to parents Juliana Falcon and Ray Prosper. Juliana is originally from Buenos Aires, Argentina, but she immigrated to England where she met and married her husband, Ray. The couple then went on to have Nicholas and his 2 younger siblings. However, by the time Nicholas was 9 years old, Juliana and Ray split up. From there, Ray did maintain contact with his children throughout the years. He visited regularly and lived close by, though his leaving did cause a lot of strain within the family. Juliana struggled to deal with the breakup. She was working full-time and now had to raise 3 children as a single mother. Not only that, but the kids were old enough to understand what happened, and a young Nicholas would lash out at times. He would get into arguments with his mom, blaming her for his father leaving. Neighbors reported sometimes hearing yelling from within their flat, and they knew that the family were having a hard time. But even with all of that, nothing seemed to escalate to the point of needing police or outside intervention. They were under a lot of stress, but it wasn't anything beyond what a lot of families go through. At the time, Juliana and her children, then 18-year-old Nicholas, 16-year-old Kyle, and 13-year-old Giselle, were all living in a flat on Lutton's Marsh Farm estate in Bedfordshire, England. Growing up, Nicholas was described as a quiet, introverted, nerdy kind of boy. He had a small group of friends, all of whom were interested in computer and video games. But as he grew into his teen years, he started to isolate himself from his friends, family, and school peers. By September of 2022, when he was about 16, he was enrolled in sixth form. For those who don't know, in the UK and some other countries, it is required to be involved in some sort of educational program, employment training, or college prep until the age of 18. Sixth form is one of those options and is a common path for students preparing for A-level, which is where a student will take classes to specialize in a few specific subjects that are focused on their career path and interests. This will end in an examination which will qualify that student for higher education or employment in a specific field. For Nicholas, though, he didn't necessarily want to go to sixth form. He only did so because he felt pressured by his mom to continue pursuing his education. He started to become angry at his mother for making him stay in school. Throughout this time, those around him at school noticed him becoming increasingly withdrawn from his classes and peers. He was suddenly no longer interested in participating in any of his schoolwork. He stopped interacting with those around him, including his own friends. At home, Juliana noticed much of the same. He spent most of his time locked away in his room, spending hours upon hours on his computer browsing the internet. He was completely uninterested in spending any time with his siblings or parents. His behaviors grew concerning enough that Juliana, Ray, and the school agreed to have Nicholas examined by the local child and adolescent mental health services team. Through their examination, it was suspected that Nicholas may have mild autism. He seemed to be overwhelmed by social interactions and had a very rigid way of thinking. The team recommended treatment and tried to help Nicholas deal with his issues, but he was very resistant and refused to participate in any intervention. So not much came of this, and by March of 2023, he was asked to leave sixth form. For the year that followed, Nicholas continued to isolate himself. He did go to the gym and work out occasionally and worked part-time at a local supermarket stocking shelves. He got some social interaction through that, but otherwise he spent the vast majority of his time locked away in his room in total isolation. During this time, neighbors and others who knew the family described very little interaction with Nicholas. He very much kept to himself, but they just saw him as being a reclusive teen who spent too much time playing online video games. Those closest to Nicholas knew that he had some issues, but no one could have guessed what was really going on behind the closed door of his bedroom. He wasn't just playing online video games. He grew an obsession that developed into deep-seated hatred towards anyone on the outside. A hatred that fueled his plan to hurt as many people as possible. By around 5:30 a.m. on the morning of Friday, September 13th, 2024, a neighbor living in a flat just below the Prospers woke up to what sounded like a struggle coming from the flat above them. The neighbor, Miriam, heard what sounded like yelling, fighting, and banging sounds, so she ran up to their door to see what was going on. But just as she began knocking, she could barely make out the groaning and punching sounds coming from inside. She then started knocking incessantly until she heard the distinctive sound of a gunshot ringing out. She immediately ran away from the door in terror, grabbing her phone and calling 999 as quickly as possible. Police arrived to the scene by 5:50 a.m., forcing their way into the flat. Immediately upon entering, they were met with an absolutely horrific scene. They were met with 3 bodies scattered within the flat. Juliana, Kyle, and Giselle were all brutally murdered. There was blood everywhere. Pools of blood all around the floors, stains and smears of blood across the walls, bloody handprints, and blood spatter everywhere. There were bloody knives located throughout, with one of them looking completely bent out of shape. 48-year-old Juliana was found in the hallway leading from the bedrooms to the living room, and there was a book called How to Kill Your Family lying on her legs. It was found that she had been shot once in the head at very close range. 13-year-old Giselle was found in the living room, lying under a table with an injury that indicated a bullet had grazed the back of her head before she was shot in the face through her right eye. Then, 16-year-old Kyle was found in the hallway with one bullet wound to his chest and the back of his head, as well as over 100 stab and slash wounds to his face, head, neck, torso, and limbs. As for 19-year-old Nicholas, well, he was nowhere to be found. Based on examination of the whole scene, as well as later autopsies of the bodies, detectives put together an idea of what they believed happened that morning. At some point, Juliana must have discovered that her son Nicholas had this double-barreled shotgun, so she tried to get it away from him. But in the struggle, Nicholas managed to shoot her one time in the head before retrieving that novel and placing it on her legs. Through that, his little sister Giselle woke up, put on her glasses, and went into the hallway to see what was going on. As she did that, Nicholas fired at her from a distance, just barely nicking her head. Terrified, she ran into the living room and tried to hide, but Nicholas followed her closely behind. He confronted her, pushed the gun up against her eye, and fired off a shot. As that was all happening, 16-year-old Kyle also woke up and ran into the kitchen, arming himself with a knife to protect himself. But Nicholas managed to shoot him in the chest from a distance before pursuing him with a knife of his own. Nicholas stabbed and slashed his little brother over 100 times as he struggled to fight back, free himself from the grasps of his big brother's brutality. He was likely begging for his life to be spared. At some point, Kyle managed to get free and tried running away again, but was shot in the back of the head in the hallway where he was later found. Through all of that, Nicholas would have had to reload the shotgun 2 times and was obviously armed with other weapons such as the knives as well. This couldn't have been just a spur-of-the-moment snap in reality that caused him to lash out. He was clearly intent on killing each and every member of his family, no matter how brutal or violent he had to be to accomplish this goal. But the questions they were left with were, why did he do this, and where was he now? By the time officers discovered the bodies of this family, many other patrol cars had made their way to the area. The apartment was crawling with police, and they were determined to find Nicholas. Upon reviewing the CCTV footage from their apartment complex, officers found that Nicholas left the flat by 5:33 a.m., just a few minutes after the neighbor knocked on the door and heard those gunshots, and about 20 minutes before police arrived on scene. It was then found that after leaving, he began walking in the direction of the St. Joseph's Primary School. From there, after seeing police car after police car head towards the flat, he realized that he needed to hide. So he found a wooded area to hide in and stayed there for about 2 hours. But finally, by 7:55 a.m., after feeling the walls closing in and realizing that there was nowhere to go without being noticed by cops, Nicholas surrendered. He came out of the woods and walked towards a passing police car, flagging it down with his arms raised. At that time, the officer immediately noticed that he had blood all over his hands, clothes, and face. It was also found that he had a kitchen knife in his pocket. He was immediately apprehended and placed into the back of the police car, and as that happened, he repeated, "It's not murder," over and over again.
Okay, you do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention, when questioned, something later on in court. Anything you do say may be given as evidence. What road are we on? Birmingham Road. 46, priority. Birmingham Road, I think we've got the offender.
It's not murder.
Yes, we've got a male here. He's presented himself to us. Can we just get another unit down here, please?
Along with that, once in the patrol car, officers noted that he did not appear to be distressed or agitated at all. He had actually become relatively upbeat and engaged in conversation with the officers. He then asked if the schools had been locked down because of him. After the arrest, the area where Nicholas came from was searched. Near where he came out of the woods, officers located 2 cell phones and a backpack. The backpack contained a loaded double-barreled shotgun as well as 33 additional cartridges. As that was happening, of course, an investigation began into how and why this happened. Detectives started by searching Nicholas's computer, and right away, they found a lot of very disturbing information. They found that starting about 2 years prior, around the same time in which he started to become socially isolated and withdrawn, Nicholas started spending countless hours online researching topics such as suicide, guns, serial killers, and school shootings. More specifically, he extensively researched Adam Lanza, the 20-year-old who shot and killed 20 children and adults in the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting in Connecticut in 2012. He also researched the Virginia Tech shooting in 2007, where Sin-Hee Cho killed 32 people and wounded 17 others. He didn't just research the shootings themselves, though. He extensively researched the perpetrators, what they were, and how they chose their victims. Based on this, it was clear that Nicholas was planning to commit a school shooting of his own. It was found that he had collected numerous photos of one specific victim from the Sandy Hook school shooting, a 6-year-old little girl. Along with images of her, they found over 200 images and videos depicting child sexual abuse material. There were also audio recordings of him discussing topics like necrophilia, talking about the 6-year-old little girl, as well as him discussing the online video game The Walking Dead. At some point, it was found that Nicholas even tried to contact the mother of that 6-year-old girl using a false name. He was also very involved with this online gore website where people apparently share content related to people being hurt or killed. I guess you can upload photos and videos, and the users can share comments and have discussions related to the violent images. On the site, where he used a fake name, he often wrote comments about necrophilia and child sexual abuse. But his comments were apparently so disturbing that he was kicked off the website for, quote, repeatedly sexualizing children. Let that sink in. On a website designed to share disturbing graphic content of people being murdered, Nicholas's comments were so disturbing that he was removed. It was then found that by September 13th, 2023, Nicholas had called the St. Joseph's Catholic Primary School located just a mile away from his flat and where he attended when he was a boy. He inquired about the daily schedule and when the children would arrive and leave school. On his computer, there were numerous images found of the school, multiple teachers and staff, and some of the students. They also found a diagram of where the classrooms were located, and next to the earliest grades classes, he wrote, "Kill all." By April of 2024, they found a video of Nicholas wearing an outfit with black and yellow clothing, a yellow bucket hat, and yellow shoes. In the video, he was acting out the shooting with a piece of wood in place of a gun. This was the uniform he planned to wear when carrying out the shooting. He wanted to wear something that would stand out and be memorable. By the summer of 2024, Nicholas started looking at numerous images of firearms documentation and researched details about guns for sale. From there, Nicholas managed to forge a firearms certificate. Now, in the UK, you need to obtain a firearms certificate in order to buy a shotgun or ammunition. With this, you must have at least 2 references, which are usually police officers. So he went online and found a blank copy of a firearms certificate, filled it out, and forged the signature of a police officer. Once he had the certificate, by September 12th, the day before the shooting, he went to a private seller to buy a 12-ball Nico double-barreled shotgun and 100 cartridges. Turns out, when it comes to selling firearms in the UK, as long as the seller sees that the buyer has the documentation, such as the certificate, they're allowed to sell. The The sale must be reported to police within a week, at which point they will then check if the certificate is real. The seller actually has no obligation to make sure the certificate is real. So that gives the buyer 7 days to own that firearm before police have the chance to verify the legality of it. Once officers tracked down that seller and spoke with the man who sold Nicholas the gun, they learned that he told the seller that he wanted the shotgun to practice clay pigeon shooting, and the seller believed him. Nicholas appeared well-spoken, confident, and polite. He seemed experienced with firearms and had the certificate to legally obtain the firearm. No red flags were raised, so after Nicholas paid him the 650 pounds, he sold him the gun. This interaction was caught on CCTV footage, and just as the seller said, Nicholas appears confident and pleasant. There is nothing about his body language or facial expression that could suggest he had such horrific intentions. After obtaining the shotgun, Nicholas went back online and did even more research in preparation for the shooting. He looked up whether shotgun wounds to the neck were lethal because that is how he planned to take his own life after carrying out the school shooting. He searched, "Do you die if shot in the neck? How lethal are neck gunshots? Man shoots woman in the head at close range," and "suicide by neck shot." He also looked up the weather forecast for September 13th. He wanted to be prepared for every step of the way. Nicholas then stayed up pretty much all night, continuing his online research. By 3:42 a.m., now going into September 13th, he researched necrophilia, asking if sex with a corpse feels good. He then watched an extreme animated pornography film for about half an hour. Between 4:11 and 4:42 a.m., he looked at images of arterial anatomy, gunshot wounds to the head, and looked at photos and videos from school shootings, specifically from the 1999 Columbine school shooting. This was his final internet activity before he shot and killed his family. After the brutal murders, when he left the flat and went to hide in the woods, Nicholas was back on his phone. By 6:22 a.m., he posted a very disturbing video to Facebook. He was wearing that shooting uniform and is thought to have recorded that video the morning before the murders. He said that on June 30th, his sister decided to make incorrect choices on episode 1 of the Walking Dead games, and for that, her face will be mutilated further than necessary. He said that he was chosen to protect by Clementine, a fictional character in the game. She basically chose him to protect her, according to him. As we know, he followed through with that threat as he viciously shot her in the eye at very close range.
On June 30th, my sister decided to make the incorrect choices in episode 1 of season 1 of the Walking Dead games, and for that her face will be mutilated further than necessary. I also recall a video by Living Echoes on YouTube, Best of Lee and Clementine Definitive Edition. It was a compilation, and he decided to kill Larry in front of Clementine, and then I later learned he decided to kill the St. John's in front of Clementine. I am the chosen one, chosen by Clementine.
Clearly, we can see that Nicholas grew a very disturbing obsession with violence. He spent 2 years online looking at horrifying images of violence against women and children. He was fascinated by topics so dark, so deranged, that even the sickest of people found him to be too disturbed. He was obsessed with the online video game, The Walking Dead, and had this idea in his head that he was somehow chosen by a fictional character to protect her, showing that there was clearly some disconnect between the online world and reality. He spent those 2 years planning the perfect school shooting, intending to take as many victims as he could. He showed no remorse, no care in the world for anyone but himself. After his arrest, he was immediately taken into the police station for an interview. There, he was asked multiple questions about what he did, including asking if he killed his family, if the murders were planned, if he used the shotgun. To any question they asked, he responded, "No comment." He continued to show no emotion, no remorse. He was flat, cold, and unwilling to give up any information.
Did you kill them?
No comments.
Police got called there to a disturbance and found your mum, brother and sister dead. Explain to me what happened.
No comments.
Did you kill your mum, brother and sister?
No comments.
Is it your shotgun?
No comments.
Is that a shotgun that was used to kill your mum and your brother and sister?
No comments.
I mean, I can confirm that this knife was taken from you by police officers, okay?
No comments.
Why did you have that knife in your pocket?
No comments.
It's obviously covered in blood. Whose blood is that?
No comments.
Have you stabbed someone with that knife?
No comments.
When police got there and found your mum, your brother and your sister, on your mum, or right next to her, is a book called How to Kill Your Family. Have you ever seen a book with a cover like that at your home address?
No comments.
Did it belong to you?
No comments.
Or did it belong to someone else living there?
No comments.
Have you ever touched that book? Because it was found right next to your mum.
No comments.
Was it just a coincidence that your mum fell where that book was?
No comments.
Have you read that book?
No comments.
Book with that title was right next to your mum. Has it got any significance?
No comments.
Have you been planning how to kill your family?
No comments.
Did you get any tips from that book?
No comments.
But once in jail, he was assessed by multiple healthcare professionals, including a forensic psychiatrist. I will get more into what they found regarding his mental health in just a few minutes. But during one of those interviews, he admitted that he wanted to commit the biggest massacre in the 21st century. He then whispered, "I wish I had killed more." Essentially, he wanted to commit the biggest school shooting of all time simply for the sake of being a famous mass murderer. His first step in his plan was to kill his whole family in their sleep, then rape his sister. He then wanted to go to the school where he planned to kill at least 20 children. His plan was foiled, though, because apparently he set off a test shot into a stuffed animal, which woke up his mother. She confronted him, which forced him to start the plan much earlier than he anticipated. That is why he killed his family by 5:30 a.m. that morning, 3.5 hours before the school even opened. Then, as we know, he left the flat, hid in the woods for 2 hours, but ultimately gave up on his plan to shoot the school children due to how heavy of a police presence there was. After making this confession, he continued to await his trial in jail. By November 13th, 2 months after the murders, prison officials found a note which had been stashed in Nicholas's shoe, which detailed the murder plan and some of the aftermath. The first part of the note was a step-by-step guide to carrying out the planned school shooting. He said that he would leave the flat at 8:40 a.m. on his mother's bike so that he would get to the school by 9 a.m. when the children were first arriving. He would jump over 2 gates to gain access to the building before presenting it as a robbery. He would shout, "This is a robbery, everyone get down," before shooting through the glass door. His goal was to kill 2 teachers and as many 4 or 5-year-old children as he could. After the first classroom, he wanted to go to a second classroom, shoot more kids, and then shoot himself. Later in the note, he wrote a bit about how the whole thing went down. In part, it reads, "I was right in predicting no one would have called the police had I killed them in their sleep. 3 shots under 30 seconds. The only known phone call to police that day was made by that bitch at the door as a result of my bitch mother waking them up and it being turned into a long struggle. My plan wasn't stupid. It was effing right. My mother is a stupid effing cow." The notes continued. "But why so early? So I'd have time to cannibalize my family and rape a woman at knife point before the shooting." Throughout all of this, Nicholas never once showed remorse. He didn't regret what he did. The only thing he regrets is not being able to kill more. He doesn't care that he viciously murdered his mother, brother, and sister. He doesn't feel bad about that. Now, like I said, he was examined by a forensic psychiatrist. It was ultimately concluded that Nicholas does exhibit traits of autism spectrum disorder, though not to a severe degree. He noted that ASD is a neurodevelopmental disorder, not a mental illness. Nicholas presents with social deficits, including difficulty with communication and interaction with others. He has restrictive patterns of behaviors, interests, and activities. His ASD traits can explain why he became so obsessed with certain topics. He had limited social skills, so having friends was hard for him. He had free and unlimited access to the internet, which was a safe place for him to explore his interests to such an extreme degree. It can also explain why he gave up on his school shooting so suddenly despite the planning. In his rigid way of thinking, he planned to wake up at a certain time, leave the house at a certain time, arrive to the school at a certain time. When he realized that his plan was foiled, instead of trying to think of something else, he just decided to give up. Which honestly, thank God. This means, according to the psychiatrist, that there is an indirect connection between the possible autism and why he became so obsessed with school shootings and violence. However, of course, the autism did not cause him to act out. It did not cause him to lack self-control. It didn't limit his ability to know right from wrong. It did not impair his ability to form rational decisions. The psychiatrist found that he lacks empathy. He doesn't understand others' emotions, how they think, or what they feel. He doesn't regret what he did. In fact, he holds his crimes in high regard. He often bragged about certain elements, even to police. In one of his interviews, he bragged about how he was able to forge that gun certificate. He said very plainly that he's proud of how he killed his family. Again, the only thing he regrets is not killing more people. It was said that Nicholas does have the intellectual capacity to know that his actions have serious consequences, not just for him, but for the victims and their families. He does not suffer from any sort of mental illness or deficits that would prevent him from knowing that what he planned to do was wrong. He simply planned the mass murder because he wanted to be famous. He didn't want to live a menial life, working a 9-to-5 job. He wanted the notoriety. He wanted to be known. Based on everything I just told you, it was found that Nicholas is not mentally insane or impaired. He is capable of standing trial and facing the consequences for what he did. So at that time, his trial date was set for December 5th, before it was pushed back to March 3rd, 2025. His first court appearance was on September 16th, 2024, where he was formally charged for his crimes. His father, Ray, was present at the hearing, and when Nicholas was led out of the courtroom, he shouted, "I still love you, son. It's not your fault, okay?" before bursting into tears. He later said that it felt like his soul was ripped out when he learned what his son did to the rest of his family. But before his case got a chance to go to trial, by February 24th, 2025, Nicholas decided to plead guilty to his charges. His sentencing hearing was in March, and before handing down his sentence, the judge considered all the factors in this case. He said, quote, "This is a case where a young man has committed an incomprehensible set of offenses. Something went very wrong in the year before these events took place. His ASD meant that he had highly fixed interests, which fueled his obsession with school shootings. This is a young man who has gone down, in effect, an internet wormhole." He went on to say, though, that his actions before and after demonstrate a clear understanding that what he did was wrong. He knew it was wrong while he was planning it and did it anyways. He acknowledged his startling lack of empathy for his victims as well. He went on to say, quote, "Nicholas Prosper, you intended to unleash disaster on the community of Lutton. Your plans were intelligent, calculating, and selfish. Your ambition was notoriety. You wanted to be known as the world's most famous school shooter of the 21st century. The lives of your mother and your younger brother and sister were to be collateral damage on the way to fulfill your ambition. Your plans failed because your mother woke up and realized you had a gun and were determined to use it. This led to a horrific triple-shot murder with each victim dying knowing you had killed or intended to kill others. Words such as heartless and brutal are insufficient to describe the horror of those last moments of the people who were closest to you." However, he also mentioned that he was 18 at the time of the crime. He said that he was unable to carry out his actual plan, which would have had much more devastating consequences. He also pointed to the guilty plea in this case. With all of that considered, the judge opted not to impose a whole life order. Instead, he was given a sentence of 48 years behind bars for the murders of his mother, brother, and sister.
ASD is a neurodevelopmental disorder, not a mental illness. It is individual. In your case, it means that you have persistent deficits in social communication and interaction, and restrictive patterns of behaviour, interests, and activities. These explain almost all the abnormal aspects of the way you related to people and obsessed about things that you were interested in, such as school shootings and serial killers. The internet facilitated this through the free availability of imagery and commentary. This means there is an indirect connection between your ASD and your offending, but it is important to note that your ASD does not correlate to an increased risk of violence, nor did ASD in this case impair your ability to understand the nature of your conduct, exercise self-control, or form rational judgments when you decided to commit violent crimes. Dr. Koyman observed that since your arrest you appear to be functioning better, and incarceration has not caused you to suffer as most people would, because you have little need for social relationships. You have expressed pride in your crimes and the attention gained from them. Dr. Koyman makes another apposite observation. The rigidity of your thinking due to ASD explains why, when your plans to arrive at the school at about 9 a.m., when the children would be assembled in the early years class, were foiled, you did not adapt the plan. In addition to ASD, Dr. Koyman found you exhibit an extreme lack of empathy, the ability to understand and share another person's feelings and thoughts, which is important for building relationships. You have also expressed no remorse and no sorrow. Indeed, when asked by the psychiatrist if you would try to commit another massacre, you replied, "Well, that's their job, to stop me getting the weapons if I get released." You are different to most people, but that does not mean you were or are immature for someone of your age. Nothing in your meticulous researching and planning over the course of many months indicates immaturity, nor does the care with which you created a clever forgery of a shotgun certificate to defeat the controls on the sale of guns in the United Kingdom. Having reflected, I agree with the parties and do not impose a whole life order in this case. Firstly, because you were thwarted from completing your intentions. Otherwise, this case would have had a very different and even more appalling outcome. Secondly, this prosecution has resulted in guilty pleas. Thirdly, you were 18 at the relevant time, at the bottom of the bracket for the power provided for in section 3213C. The sentence on those counts is therefore custody for life with a minimum term of 48 years and 177 days.
Which in the UK is a long sentence. However, anyone else who has heard this case questions the decision not to hand down a whole life order. He planned a massacre for over a year, fully intending on carrying it out. He then killed 3 people, 2 of whom were children. The only reason he didn't try and kill more people is because his plan didn't work out. Not because he changed his mind, not because he felt bad, but because he knew he would be caught. So I don't think him not committing the school shooting is a mitigating factor at all. In fact, it should be an aggravating factor in all of this. People have questioned if someone who did all of this, someone who committed such brutality, someone with a clear intention of doing it again, if they don't get a whole life order, then who in the world will? There was an appeal to impose a whole life order, but that appeal was rejected. So that is where the case sits as of right now. Nicholas is behind bars but will be considered for release when he's in his 60s, which does sound like a very long time, but for someone who has committed this level of violence and has shown no remorse, no regret, someone like that should never be released. And I absolutely agree with the statement of, if he didn't get a whole life order, then who will? I'm happy that he at least got a hefty sentence, because in the UK, those are hard to come by. But it's just so disturbing to know that someone can just be planning something like this for so long and go completely unchecked. I know that his parents tried to help him with his mental health. I know that his school tried to help him as well. But it seems like everyone just gave up because he was difficult. I do think that this case is a great example of why parents need to be more diligent about checking what their kids are doing online. I am all for parental controls on computers and using programs that will alert parents if certain websites are accessed. Because if anyone found out what he was doing online, then maybe he could have been stopped. Maybe he would have been admitted somewhere for mental health help. At the very least, more could have been done. By saying that, I am in no way blaming his mother. She obviously didn't know what he was planning and even tried to stop it once she realized. And that is probably the reason that he wasn't able to carry out the school shooting, was because there was a struggle and because she tried to make sure that he wasn't able to shoot anybody else. Even though he did kill his entire family, obviously except for his father, that meant that he wasn't able to kill all those children. So if there is one positive thing in this case, it's that. When it comes to his internet activity, again, I'm sure that, Juliana had a lot on her plate with everything she was dealing with. And by no means did she, Giselle, or Kyle deserve what happened to them. It's truly so freaking devastating. And my heart absolutely goes out to their friends, family, and everyone else who knew and loved them. But with that is where I'm going to end today's case. You all heard what I think, and now I want to hear from you all. Do you think this could have been prevented? Do you think Nicholas really did have some sort of mental disorder that caused this? What do you think of the sentence he got? Let's discuss this and any other thoughts you have in the comments below. If you liked this video, please make sure to go ahead and leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Don't forget to turn the notification bell too on so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Spotify. All will be linked down below. And if you have any case suggestions, please make sure to fill out the Google form, which will also be listed down below. With that, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you next time.